Hi and welcome back. So first we want to rename our Jupyter notebook from untitled to, let's say, Python Basics. So we are here on the Python Basics section. And before we start coding, we want to structure our notebook a little bit. So this is the good thing of Jupyter notebooks, that we can combine code and text. And first of all, we want to create a heading. And therefore we have to change the setting of our cell. So here we can see it's in the code setting, and we want to create a heading, which is a text actually, and therefore we need the markdown setting. And here we are already in the command mode. And if we press the M key, we can switch to markdown. And alternatively, we can also switch to markdown by just here going to the drop-down menu and select markdown. Alright, so now we can go into the cell, and we want to create a heading, so we need to press the hash key and then make a space. And there you can see the font size already increases. And then we can write our heading. So let's call our heading Python Basics. And then we can run the cell by pressing Shift Enter. So now here we have our heading, and we are automatically in the next cell. And here we want to make a subheading. And first of all, here we have to select the markdown mode. And now we want to create a subheader. So we take two hash keys and an empty space. And let's say we want to enumerate our sessions. So this is the first session about first steps. So we can see with two hash keys, our font size is a little bit smaller than our header here with one hash key. So let's run here. So now before we want to create our first code, we want to explain what we will do in this session here. Let's again select markdown, and then let's explain in this session you will learn the basics of Python. Alright, so now we are finished with our headings and our description, and now we want to start coding. And before, we are again going to the command mode here and pressing the B key a few times, so we add some lines here. And then we are going here into our first line. And what we can do, we can say, okay, we have a 5 here, and we can just print out the 5. So the input is 5, and the output of our code is 5. So 5 is simply 5, as you can see here. And actually we can use Python as a calculator to perform basic mathematical operations. So for example, we can make an addition, so 5 plus 1 gives 6. And we can subtract, so for example 5 minus 1 gives us 4. And of course we can also multiply. 5 times 2 gives 10. And we can also make an exponentiation, so we can say 5 to the power of 2 gives 25. And we can also divide, so we can say 5 slash is divided by 2. And this gives 2.5. And in Python there's the function type. And in the brackets you can pass an object, like here our number 4 or 2.5. And the function type checks then what data type the object that was passed in the brackets is actually. So let's try to find out what 5, which data type it is. And it's an integer. So an integer is just a number without any decimals, and we can also check the data type of 2.5. And 2.5 is a float object, so a float object has some decimals after the point here. So the type function is the first example of a function in Python. So you can pass an object like 5 or 2.5 within the brackets of the function, and then the function does something with the object, and in this case it determines the data type of our object. Now you could ask, what is an object? So in Python everything is an object, because Python is an object-oriented programming language. However, at this point I do not want to go into details of object-oriented programming. So what is important for you is actually that each element we are working with, so for example here the 5 or 2.5 is an object in Python, and objects can be of different data types. So 5 is an integer and 2.5 is a float object, and different data types have different functionalities, but we will learn more about it in the next sessions, about integers, floats, strings, and so on. So what we can do now, we can type something here in quotation mark, let's say dog, and it returns us dog. So now again, let's add some lines here with the B key, and if we check the type of dog, it gives us a string. So dog is a string object, and the string object is actually a sequence of characters which was created within quotation marks. So my name is Alex, and I can just write here my name in quotation mark, and this is a string also. However, what does not work, we cannot just write dog here. So this drops us an error message and says the name dog is not defined. So when we write dog here without quotation marks, Python assumes that dog is a variable which was defined earlier, but it does not find any information on the variable dog, so then it drops an error message, and of course we will learn later what a variable is in detail. But now let's go on with one more thing we want to learn. So let's assume here in a cell we want to make two calculations, so let's say 5 plus 2 and then 4 minus 1, and then if we run the cell we only get the result of the last statement here in our cell, so 4 minus 1 gives us 3. But this does not mean that Python do not calculate also 5 plus 2, and actually Python does calculate 5 plus 2, but we do not see it here in the output. And if we want to print many statements, we have to use the function print. So print is also a function, and within the brackets we can pass a statement which we want to see in the output. So for example 5 plus 2, and again we can take 4 minus 1, and if we run the cell now we get the output of both statements. So 5 plus 2 gives 7 and 4 minus 1 gives us 3. And we can also pass both calculations within the print function. So we can say print 5 plus 2, comma, and 4 minus 1 gives 7 and 3. But this is also an advantage of Jupyter Notebook. If we only want to print, let's say 5, we can just type 5 and run the cell, and this gives us 5. So we do not have to explicitly say here, please print me 5. So in coding environments other than Jupyter Notebook, we always have to use the print function, but Jupyter Notebook knows here in this example, okay, I should print 5. So we do not have to explicitly write print here in Jupyter Notebook, but it gives actually the same result. Alright, so this were the basics of Python, and in the next session we will have a look at variables. So hope to see you there. Bye!